Paul.
Apologies, I didn't know.
Okay, so our IT staff is going to start the live stream, so we'll get started in just as soon as Paul's ready.
$150 a week?
250 emails a week,
So that
a
should
day.
You're on.
Just a second. Is that?
Yep, we're set.
All right. Call the meeting to order. Apologize for my tardiness. I didn't see the invite on this, but if we can bring it to order. Welcome, everybody. Call to order and approval of minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the minutes be approved as presented.
Support.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. And it passes. Next on the agenda is financials. Ms. Morrison?
Yeah, and actually, Paul, we don't have any financials for today, so we'll probably move right on into the discussion about 5020 West Michigan, if that's okay with the board.
That was last week's, I'm sorry. All right, 5020 West Michigan. Ted, are you?
Okay, yep, I will
on
take
that?
it for here. Thank you very much. I should have said 520 West Michigan. Sorry for saying the address wrong. So first of all, thank you to the board for coming together today. I appreciate this. Obviously, this is not part of our regular meeting schedule. We wanted to have this conversation with the board today about this particular project because our representatives from VOSA who are here are the tenants in that building and have a project that they're working on that has some specific timelines tied to it. And it was important to get this particular action out of the way before they could advance with some of the other things that they need to do to keep the project moving. So just as a quick preamble, before I'll turn it over to BOCES to talk a little bit about the project and hopefully answer any questions that you may have, is of course the DDA owns the building at 520 West Michigan Avenue. We have been renting that building to BOCES for a very long time. You may recall once the most recent lease expired about 6-8 months ago, we allowed BOCES to go forward on a month-to-month basis because they had been going through a process in which they're trying to identify a new facility for their administrative offices, and their plan was to then renovate 520 West Michigan so they could use it as an early childhood development center. And that plan is actually going to require some, again, renovations to the interior of the building, not in a way that I think would substantially change its ability to provide for an office use, but we just felt like it would be prudent to certainly share the project with the board and get your authorization for the alterations. There were some plans in the packet that was sent to you that we can look at today along with Jose and his team that will show you what kind of renovations they're looking at. Mostly it's the moving of some interior walls to reconfigure the spaces to better suit the need for what they're trying to do going forward. And then the other item that's on the agenda today is obviously renewing a new lease with them. And they've been going month to month for several months, and now we want to get them back on a 3-year lease if approved by the board. So what I'll do at this point is I'll turn it over to Jose so he can talk a little bit about the project, and please feel free to ask him questions if you have any.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Jose Orozco, the Executive Director at VOCES. Thank you all for your willingness to make this meeting happen, because I know it wasn't part of the schedule, so thank you all for your flexibility. And yes, so we're working on a bilingual intercultural preschool for 3- and 4-year-olds. We're looking at 2 classrooms. If we could put 3 in there, we would. But space-wise and making sure we're not getting in over our heads, following rules for licensing and all that, we're looking at 32 kiddos in all, 16 in each classroom. And we've gone back and forth with restrooms and if it'll work and how about the neighborhood. And we've been getting our curriculum together to get ready for it. And we're at a point to where we can confidently say curriculum-wise and school-wise and our teacher and all that, we're ready. We just need a space to roll this out. We've got partnerships with Early Learning Neighborhood Collaborative out of Grand Rapids, Dr. Eze with ELNC, who's bringing her neighborhood model. We're getting some best practices here as well. together we're going to mesh them, and we're going to push out our bilingual intercultural model. And I'm hoping it does get approved today, because our folks are knocking on the door saying, when's it going to open? I've heard about it, when's it going to open? Questions?
Jose, if you would just, I've put up the page from the drawings, I believe, that shows the existing facility on the left and some of the renovations planned on the right. Could you maybe just talk through a little bit, if you're looking at the diagram, if you're looking at one of the screens, again, you can see the existing building on the left, and then on the right, you see the diagram that's got some like dotted lines.
Actually, it would be the next page. would
Is
be
it the next page?
New plan. And for the record, I was the architect on this, so I'm assuming I will need to recuse myself from voting on this. So I don't know if we need to vote on that or not, but,
Just declare it.
okay. Then I
Yeah,
would like to recuse myself.
Yeah, I do think it'll be our intent to ask the board for a motion, so.
Okay.
So this is what I'm seeing, Cody, on page A110. Is there
Yep,
some,
on the left-hand side would be the existing plan.
Okay.
As it states today. Michigan Avenue would be on the bottom of the page there, the parking lot would be to the right. And then on the next page, in the same orientation, would be the new proposed plan.
We're kind of changing it from, this would be the entrance off West Michigan, that's the main entrance. This would be the drop-off on the side for our kiddos. That way, when mom and dad come in, it's a safe space. Right?
Great.
Drop
Good.
them off. There's not access to the Michigan Avenue over here on this side. We're hoping this becomes a classroom, and then this in the back will be another classroom. This is going to be an office in the middle, the check-in area, 2 restrooms, 1 for each classroom, and then a public restroom up here, and a kitchen here.
Where are you planning the other classroom in the front?
Ted, can you go to the next page real quick,
yeah, sure.
please?
I think you, maybe you
There.
can see it a little better there.
So that's the new plan.
One right here, which would be right off of Michigan, this would be Michigan here, and then this would be 1 classroom, 16 kiddos, and then here towards the back.
Okay.
So again, I'm going to scroll back for just a second. So on this diagram on the right-hand side where you see the dotted walls, those are the walls that would actually be removed on the interior.
That is
If you-
correct.
Yeah, so if you look at the front here, you can see where they're opening up that front area for a larger classroom. And then if you scroll down here, you can kind of see the building more opened up.
So is the door on the Michigan Avenue side, can they get out of the classroom through that door?
Correct. A direct egress is required in childcare facilities from all childcare rooms. So in the top left room, in the very top left of the drawing, yep, there's a door there. It's being added as well. So the kids have direct egress out of the room. That's a state law.
So that's an exit, not an entrance.
Correct. Yep. And so those doors will be permanently locked at all times. No one can enter the building. The only point of entry would be at yep, right there. That's your only point of entry. And then all the other doors are locked at all times.
So the doors on Michigan Avenue will also be locked for entrance.
Correct. Yep, the entry is as noted in the top right there. We're basically just, instead of, pulling out the doors that are there and putting in new for exit, we're just locking them and they'll be used for exit only.
Okay.
Is the egress in the top left room, is that up in that top corner there? Is that-
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
And we're hoping we can put a playground and all that good stuff back here in the backyard. It'll be away from Michigan.
Go ahead.
Jose, thank you for presenting. This is something that we really need. Could you explain, for those who are watching, how many kids this facility will hold?
32 will be the maximum.
Will be the,
We've got 8 families right now. We said, let's get your name and number, and we'll be back in touch once it all gets finalized and confirmed. So right now, we haven't even formally said this is going to happen, and we got interest here.
okay, thank you.
Cody, it's a shame I even have to ask this question, but could emergency personnel get in off of Michigan Avenue? Is there a way for police, fire, rescue to get directly into there, depending upon what might be going on elsewhere in the building?
Knox box or in a real emergency sledgehammer. It's glass.
What was the first choice before the sledgehammer?
Knox box. So a Knox box is located on the side of the building now already. Basically, the fire department has a key to everyone's building commercially. And so they'll have an access where they could get in and have that. The ironic part is most of the time buildings have Knox boxes. They're very expensive boxes that sit next to your door, and the sledgehammer still wins most of the time in emergencies if you're trying to get in. They're like, oh, well, let's fuss around with the keys. Normally it's just like, boom, in through the door.
Thanks.
Jose, I think I remember in a meeting last year that Voces was possibly looking at another location. Have you decided against that, or?
Our admin team, we're still in negotiation on a building. That's another conversation, but in a nutshell, there's another group, Climax Realty number 2, LLC in town, that this is how they operate, and they've thrown a wrench in our negotiating with that other plan, with that Michigan State Federal Credit Union, to where they filed a less pendants, meaning even though the Federal Credit Union has accepted our offer, they're going to have to duke it out first with that Climax Realty. And where that conversation is, they've already had the first court hearing. We're waiting for the judge to issue out his order so that Climax Realty number 2 will have X amount of days to submit their discovery evidence. Michigan State Federal Credit Union also submitted an order for judgment, meaning if they can't submit the discovery evidence within the next 60 to 90 days, whatever the judge decides, then the judge can just say, okay, there's not a case here, Michigan State Federal Credit Union, sell it to wherever you want. And
Wow.
unfortunately, that's on hold. I wish we could have bought that building last month or whenever the ARPA money was awarded on behalf of the city. But right now, there's not much else out there that will fit within our budget and our plans and
Right.
the neighborhood that we're looking at to make it happen faster, or to make it happen.
Sounds complicated. So as it stands, how long of a lease are you looking to renew?
With you all, indefinitely.
Oh.
In full transparency, it'd be cool to even maybe later on down the road talk about if you rent it for so many years, maybe at the end the city would give it to the organization. I won't be in that picture, but it would be cool to know that we're working towards that. We've rented from the city for the past almost 10 years, and no complaints on our side.
Okay.
Cody, what's the time frame on the build-out?
I'll deflect that to you on what you guys are looking at.
3 to 4 months.
Okay.
3 to 4 months. And if all goes well, we're scheduled for December 13th to put this in front of the Planning Commission, and then it will be January 3rd in front of the City Commission, and then we can start January 4th.
So I've got a question for Ted. Then what are we being asked to approve today?
So I think a couple of things. First of all, we would ask the board for a motion to approve the renovations to the interior of the building as presented, or something substantially similar, so that then they could move forward with the process of renovating the building for the development center. And then we'll also ask the board today just to approve a motion to authorize the board chair to execute the lease that was in your board packet.
And who's paying for the alterations?
Actually, VOSIS is paying for the.
So this is not a budget issue on ours.
It is not a budget issue for us, no.
Do we have any restrictions on, obviously, we have approved plans or architectural plans here. Is there anything that we're not allowing in that reconstruction or in that remodeling?
Is there anything that we're not allowing? I guess you.
I know too many horror stories in rental properties and/or allowing people that are renting to redo things and they don't get them done. I mean, what do we have for collateral? Or is there anything that we're doing that makes sure that follows through to what we're approving if we approve this?
Yeah, so I think if I'm following you right, Paul, the question would be, so VOSIS has a plan to use the building in a certain way, and they're making renovations to accommodate that. If that can't go forward for whatever reason, and I think Jose mentioned, they actually have to have a special use permit to be able to use the building in the way they intend to use it. And they're going through that process now. So I think what we could do is make this motion, these renovations, right, contingent on the idea that they're actually going to receive a special use permit. And then I think by putting the limitations on the motion that they're allowed to make renovations as presented or something substantially similar. Speaks to what they can do and then what they can't do as well, if that makes sense to the board.
Mr. Chairperson, I would move that the board approve of the proposed alterations or something substantially similar, with the approval being subject to the Planning Commission granting the special use permit.
Support.
Any more? Mr.
Discussion,
Grossman, you had your
Yes,
hand up.
thanks. Yeah, quick question on the long-term vision for this. So you're putting in a daycare at this point. Is a long-term vision daycare, or are you thinking perhaps education at some point, that preschool education? And the reason I ask that is there just might be some differences in what you have to design into the architecture.
Right. So right now, 2 classrooms isn't going to meet the need that we need for our community. But we do feel it might be kind of a, what do they call that space? Not the maker space. Yeah, like an incubation space. Meanwhile, because we've got some of our community that's coming out of the CACC, and they're trying to figure out, young ladies and gentlemen, trying to figure out where they go do their volunteer hours. They don't know what preschool might, well, we can do it right there. They're in our after-school programs. They're going to the CACC. They can come right back into our center and get their hours there. We've also got a lot of aunts and grandmas at home that have been taking care of kiddos kind of on the down low. Okay, well, how do we legitimize that? How can we start bringing in our community and training them up that you can have this as a business and be successful? So I think those are all the opportunities still left to explore that we are prepping for, because we know 2 classrooms isn't going to do it.
Okay, thanks, yeah.
Any more discussion?
Nothing else needs to be done, but,
We have,
okay, right.
Can we allow Maria? Yeah. Maria's
Yes.
help, our consultant from BC Post that is helping us along this journey so that Jose doesn't mess up too much.
Well, the other thing is that he's very connected with the early childhood sector work that's happening locally, and I don't know if you're familiar with the state of Michigan is bringing down a significant amount of resources for new facility and facility improvements that he's going to take advantage of, as well as working with ELNC and Pulse and the other folks that are local. We know that we need more preschool programs and more child care programs here locally, and so there is not a lot of stock locally for us to be able to develop those new centers. And so this space, even if down the road VOSIS were to say, I'm not sure that we want to continue, ELNCBC has said, I don't want this space to be turned over because we were going to spend a significant amount of money to get it renovated and ready for a preschool program. So someone's going to be able to come in right away if that were to happen down the road. I see that space as being a preschool or childcare program for some time, and also even thinking about expansion to summer programs and other things that VOSIS will be able to offer.
Good night. I guess I turned to Cody quietly, but I was asked a question. So this could be not only daycare, what we're approving, it would also be suitable for any preschool requirements and things of that sort.
Correct, yeah, for any 3-4 age group.
Okay, cool. Yep.
So the lot right behind that property is land bank. So there's all sorts. There's empty lots all around there. I know
Yeah.
there's been some fun conversations in here around that property. So right now, the opportunities are like endless if somebody's got some other ideas. Because what I was thinking was it would be nice to be able to have the entrance come in off of the street in the back. Eldred? Van Buren, it'd be nice to have the entrance because there's nothing behind this lot except empty land. So if we could have the entrance come in off Van Buren, drop off your kiddo, then this would be the entrance and this would be the exit on the one way in, one way out. But that's
Down the road, yeah.
down the road. Yeah.
quick question, Cody. I see that we're in, that we all have negotiated an 80% discount in the market value of these premises. Do you have a approximate value of the investment that they're putting into the property?
Oh, I want to say it was close to $500,000, is that correct?
On the renovation,
Yeah,
we're getting about 350 is what we're getting quoted.
there you go.
I have a question for Cody. Are you the architect of record for every project in the county?
Quite a few
Accused himself of,
of answering.
Keep coming on this, Senator.
Over and over again.
all right, if there's no more further discussions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Ted, do we need to do anything, any special caveats, or? Yes,
We just need to
Noting
make a
that
note
Cody-
that one member,
Recused.
yes,
yes,
thanks.
yes, thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
And that's with caveat that it does get approved by the city commission on the, was that the 3rd of January?
And that was, yes, and I believe that was part of Nelson's motion.
Okay.
Do we have to make a motion authorizing the city to do negotiations on the lease, or have we done that?
Yeah, so, yeah, if you're okay, Mr. Chairman, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the BOCES lease.
Okay.
But as this conversation has been going on, I've been looking at the board packet quickly, and it looks like that when the lease was inserted in your board packet, it was, it looks like it was not copied on both sides, unfortunately. So you may be just seeing every other page of the lease, which I know is not helpful for the board, for the purposes of approving. What I will say, and I think maybe the way to handle this, given that you don't have the entire lease in front of you, is that the terms and conditions in this particular lease are the exact same as they have been for previous leases, including the lease amount. The term of this lease would actually be for 3 years, but there are provisions within the lease that allow them to just kind of consistently renew it, assuming they give us the proper notice. The reason there's a 3-year term on that lease is because when the team from BOCES goes to renew in 3 years, it does give us an opportunity to negotiate new terms, should we choose to negotiate new terms. And that's why we don't just allow it to go on into perpetuity. So because there's not necessarily urgency to approve this, you can see that BOCES has already agreed to the terms and conditions. This, if the board is not comfortable with the fact they don't have the whole lease in front of them, and we would certainly understand that, we could bring this back at your January meeting for approval.
I believe that what was left here for us is double-sided.
Oh, is it?
But it's missing.
Oh, you're right.
For the lot.
Missing 4, 6,
That's only-
and
Correct.
It looks like it did not include.
4 and 6, 1, 4, and 6, 2, 4, and 6.
No, that's okay. I think we're good. So if the board's comfortable, we just won't take action on this particular item today. We'll bring it back for the January. And again, BOCES is occupying the facility basically on a month-to-month basis right now. It's working out just fine. So I think I think all parties would be comfortable coming back in January to deal with the lease.
And that won't be a problem for your financing? Okay.
Okay? Not for the purposes of the special use permit, no.
Planning Commission might recommend approval subject to having the lease done, and
Yeah.
it's like we're,
And we could have, and we certainly could go on as we are, just on a month-to-month basis. I don't know that that gives BOCES necessarily the security they're looking for, since they're going to make an investment in the building. So I think we do want to circle back around on this, but I'm guessing, Jose, that the timing of January is fine for your purposes. Yeah. Okay, so that's all I have for item number 4 then, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Project updates on 34 East Michigan Avenue?
So we just wanted to talk about 34 East Michigan for a minute, because we haven't had that conversation with the board for a while. You may recall this is the property located, it's the old Binder building located next to Randy Case's building downtown. And you may recall that a couple of years back, this board authorized an investment into the preservation or demolition of the tower portion of that building, with the understanding that should we be able to recoup any funds from that demolition, that they would then be put back into essentially the DDA coffers for future use. So without providing a lot of details, because we're still litigating this matter, I did want to just mention that we continue, the city did receive a judgment against the building owners for the cost of demolition, and we are in the process of trying to resolve that situation. In the meantime, it does seem imperative to try to get the building in the hands of a developer who would not only, one, seal it against the weather, but has some interest or intent going forward of renovating the property as well. So we have continued to pursue that. We do have a couple of developers who have expressed some interest in the building. We're working through that process right now. Transferring the building into the hands of a developer would probably be a condition of a settlement, and it seems to be something that both parties would be agreeable to, as the trust isn't currently investing in or showing any intent to invest in the building too. So I just wanted to let you know, we are working on it. We do hope to secure some type of a reasonable financial settlement based on our investment in the property, but that process is ongoing. Our main concern now is to get the building in the hand of somebody who will invest in it. So.
Is the trust battling this through an appeal?
Right now, we are basically in every court. We're in circuit court, we're in district court, we're in probate court. Right now, everything's basically on hold because of the action in the probate court. But yes, there's an appeal, and there's our desire to pursue the initial judgment. There's an appeal. There are code violations in district court, and then we're obviously trying to resolve this through probate court.
Is the building, as it stands right now, how does the value of it compare with the judgment?
The value of the building doesn't even, probably less than 10 or 15% of the total amount of the judgment.
Has the building been cleaned out?
Certainly many items have been removed from the building, but I would not call it at all cleaned out.
And the trust would probably say, if you want to give up your judgment, you can have the building. Probably.
They would, yeah, I don't know how far I can get into that, Nelson, but yes. So just, again, we continue to try to address the situation.
And did the DDA wind up putting some money into the demolition, or was there enough money without DDA funds to be able to demolish it?
No, actually, I would say the DDA funds were used almost exclusively to cover the cost of the demolition.
I mean, that was 350, right, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what we ultimately authorized, but it was, yes, right in that range. And the city has a little bit of money into it as well.
What a mess.
You don't need any action.
Do not need any action, just wanted to provide the board with an update, just because we hadn't talked about it in a while.
Thank you, Ted.
And then, Mr. Chairman, if I might just insert real quickly too, I see the next item on the agenda is board member comments. We do have some folks from the public, so I suggest public comment and then board member comment.
I was going to ask, do we have any people who would like to make some comments from the public?
Okay.
We don't have anybody online, I assume? Okay.
No.
Nope. Do we have any board comments?
As usual, I do. You may have noticed we have some observers here today. We don't normally have observers on site on a DDA meeting. They're usually pretty boring, but they are broadcast online. You're seeing some members out there of a new group that's not even properly named yet, but it's a Downtown Business Owners Association. I've gone to a couple of their meetings. It's a good group of downtown business owners and people who are generally just trying to make Battle Creek better. Young, but now I'm to the age now where just about everybody is young. And they're all they're in the process of organizing what they are. Their first initial meetings, they were focused on writing a letter to somebody about something. Parking is an issue. And events was clearly a subject discussed. Somehow by the nature of me surviving all the highs and lows, I'm considered kind of the elder statesman of the group. I don't know how that happened. But I've shared some experience. I've Some of you who've been around a long time may remember the Downtown Restaurant Association. I kind of described what that exercise was like, and it was a lot of effort for not a lot of effectiveness. And I urged them to organize so they don't go through the same experience we did. And I suggested to them that they work on their bullet points and to get to know who the stakeholders are in Battle Creek, of which one of them is the DDA. I mentioned that I've had more success over the years talking to somebody over a cup of coffee than I did making a presentation at the city commission meeting. So they should get to know who the stakeholders are here. I would say they're, and I'm speaking as a DDA member and a downtown business owner, I don't speak for the group, that they are all people in different stages of need and concern. I let them know that there are some great things in the pipeline and some cool things happening on the horizon, but they're quite frankly far off. They have a lot of time has to go forward before they come to fruition. And my sense is from the group that they need all the assistance they can muster to get from here to there. In other words, I told them I thought it would be worth their while. They just have to get there. And the stakeholders that I mentioned that they should probably get to know are the DDA, certainly the city management. We have got some great foundations here in Battle Creek. I think they should know Jim Hadsma, and then they should figure out what they should be seeking, and what they might ask for. I told them I didn't know what was possible, but I know the right people who to talk to find out what's possible. There is some concern with the New Holland opening up that parking is going to be a big issue. I think at the last meeting, you might remember I mentioned that I thought the parking ramp on Michigan Avenue being open after 5 through the week and free after 5 and free on the weekends may be a good solution to handle the extra car parking that's going to be needed when they open up. And they seem to think that was a good idea, and I think that at some point we talked about going to the Parking Commission and making a suggestion about that. And again, I don't speak for the group, but I'm encouraged by them. I told them that there is sometimes power in numbers, but there are also sometimes numbers can be intimidating or scary, so don't do that. Get to know the people, have good conversations, buy some coffee, and this may be an effective way to get what they're looking for. So, and they all said, by the way, Ross, you're on the DDA, that they're public meetings. And I said, yeah. And so here they are. So that's what I know about our fine guests today.
Anybody else? Okay, well, with that, I think we can adjourn.
Thank you.